one of the things that we say Sunday after Sunday is we celebrate all of it. We are together in spiritual community in times of joy and triumph and in times of sadness. You see, there's a part of us that likes to define life as good and bad. And we like to put this category as what's right and true and what's not right and true. And so when Rick came to me a while back and said that they were taking this next step in their journey, I was strangely at peace, because I do have a sense of things. And I know that there's a huge difference between when we run away from something and when we run to something. And so, what a beautiful song, by the way. That calling that we have in our lives to that greater yet to be. And yet the Buddha taught us that the source of our suffering is our resistance and our attachment. That when we resist what is, we stay stuck. When we are attached to what was, we stay stuck. And I see this so often. I see it in my own life. I see it in others. That in order for people to move forward, one of the things that is required is to let go of the old. It's an argument that people want to make at some level of being that says, I want to hold on to my old way of being, but I want a different experience of life. And I always say, how is that working for you? Right? How is that working? Is that working out for you? Because it is necessary and essential that we learn to let go and to accept the new. And yet to remain conscious, to remain aware, to remain open. Can we feel the pain of letting go, the sadness that is embraced in that, and still remain awake? I find that sometimes in the process of letting go, we want to get mad at something. You know, back in the olden days, before I was the enlightened soul that you see before you, I never changed a job without hating the old job. There was a part of me that had to get mad at him. I had to justify. Somewhere along the way, I realized I could just make a new choice. I could love what is and choose what will be. And so I've noticed in this process of allowing and being with Rick and watching him go through it and watching me go through it. In fact, I think you gave me this cold, as a matter of fact, as a way of my deeper processing, you know. One of the things when you're kind of stuck in bed, you kind of have to deal with yourself, right? Or take a lot of drugs, which I did both. But I realize there's a cleansing that is taking place. And for me, one of the things I realized in that I have only ever known the Center for Spiritual Living in Salt Lake as Rick as our music director. When I started visiting 11 years ago, doing workshops and stuff, Rick was the music director. When I was faced with the decision to come and be part of this ministry, one of the huge calling cards was that I got to partner with Rick. And I am so grateful that I've had that experience. I'm so grateful for watching him as a minister show up in ministry, and that his ministry happened to be music. But it's always been very clear for me that what he's brought to this is not entertainment, although it's been very entertaining. It's not just good music. It is about opening the heart and opening the soul so that we can have a greater experience of the divine. And so I'm grateful for that. So there's a part of me that would love to hold on. I could probably, I could manipulate him into staying. I've got that tool set. You know, I don't try to pull it out very often, but, you know, it's there if I needed it. But I also know, as he's saying about so beautifully, that's never where our hearts lie. Those of us who have chosen the path of spiritual awareness, saying, I will allow the divine to lead me, realize there comes a point when we have to let go of our ego constructs to say, this is terrifying, and yet it's very exciting. When you're saying, oh, I'm so excited, and oh, crap, all in the same sentence, you know you're on to something. Right? Right? if it's both exciting and terrifying, you know something is happening, something bigger than you. And so I celebrate with you too, this next step. Not happy about it, but I'm celebrating with you. And yet I also know that something new is being born, that this center is so much larger than any one personality. You know, I was sharing earlier that, you know, so in my 5 years here, I've always had Rick on the left hand and Myrna on the right hand. And then Myrna said, man, I'm going to have my own ministry and do my own thing and blah, 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 whatever, right? I survived that. I was good. But then Rick's like, here, let me cut off your other arm now. And yet I come back to the fact that this ministry, this divine idea is bigger than any one personality. I look sometimes, there's a lovely little plaque up here on this piano in loving memory of Reverend Albert Hurd. Now, there's only a handful of you in this community that even know who that person is. But he was a huge instrumental part of the forming and the formation of this community because it's a divine idea. And so when we get stuck in the personality. So we let people express and become who they are. So while I'm very, very excited for you, I also have gone through a period of like, ooh, now what? And yet, sometimes it says to me, the divine says to me, stay conscious, stay aware, be awake, allow yourself to feel the loss, grieve that, and yet also stay open to the greater yet to be. So this is all perfect that it's happening in this point of time because I wanted to talk today about a new beginning. You see, for many, many years, there is a custom and a tradition that says at the beginning of a year, we do this wonderful ritual. And we do this wonderful ritual of looking back and looking forward. In fact, the word January comes from the Roman god Janus. And for those of you who may not have studied your Roman mythology lately, Janus was a two-headed figure. Not a two-headed figure, a two-faced figure. One had two faces, one facing forward, one facing back. To look at the past and to look into the future. That's where January, the word, comes from. So this is this wonderful ritual that as the new year is emerging, we're looking forward into the future, even as we're reflecting upon the past. For me, I've looked at this last year, and it's been amazing. It's been wonderful and exciting. And we had some of the greatest gifts come forward in the community. We also had some of the greatest losses come forward in this community. It has been the fullness of life all happening. For me, it's been a profound year of letting go of my old constructs, of letting go of relationships, of letting go of all kinds of things. And yet the welcoming of what's new and what's trying to be born. So all of us are participating in this ritual that has gone on for years and years and years. In fact, I did a little research. This whole idea of New Year's resolutions has been ongoing. There's record of it 4,000 years ago in Babylonia of people participating in this. Now, once the Puritans came into the new country, they didn't even want to call it January because that was kind of pagan, and so they did some other weird thing. But otherwise, mostly it's been a big celebration, and you wake up the next morning and you set a new intention for the new year, right? So there's something calling at our soul level to always say, what do I want to do? Who do I want to become? So as we're sitting in this darkness, corresponding with the solstice, knowing that the light is coming, the longer days are coming, there's a part of us that is calling us forth. So sometimes we set goals or intentions or resolutions. And what I notice about that, having done this for many, many years, I notice that sometimes the resolutions that I set don't come into being. They don't happen. I say, well, wait a minute. I have read in my science of my textbook that thoughts are things. I should think the thought, and it should be done. It should be established unto me for all time and hereforth. But I realize That some of us, if we just are working at an outer level at a new thing, I'm going to lose 5 pounds, or I'm going to stop smoking, or I'm going to start smoking, or I'm going to, I don't know, whatever you want to, that sometimes by January 3rd, we're kind of in a fetal position, trying to will that into being, and by the middle of February, we can't even remember what the thing was we said we were going to do. Right? You know these people. You know these people that have done that. But I also know that there is a way of being that can be transformative, that we are called to express. And so it's really helpful for us to understand how our minds work. We have a conscious mind, and the conscious mind gets to make choices. The conscious mind gets to say silly things like, I'm going to lose 10 pounds, right? There's also a subconscious mind, which is, you ever heard the phrase, you're not the boss of me? No. Well, it is. It is the boss of you. And that is where our way of being resides. The good news is the conscious mind can make a new intention and set a new pattern, but it is until it is embraced by the subconscious mind, it doesn't happen. So what we find is that we are people of habit. We work from a habitual level. We think in habitual ways. We act in habitual ways. Most of you got up and put on your shoes this morning in the exact same way you have every morning for the last 50 years, if you're that old. Right? You put on the right one first and then the left one. Or the left one first or the right one. And you probably can't even answer to me which one it was. Tomorrow you can pay attention, you'll know. Right? We just do things. That's the great gift of our subconscious mind, is it stores all this information. So we're not having to learn how to do life every single day, every single thing we need to know. But it also becomes that way of habitually thinking, so that this lovely, grandiose thought that we hold, that the subconscious mind, the conscious mind, who likes the great hero's journey kind of big, bold approach. Sure, I haven't worked out in 14 years, but this year, 5 days a week, 2 hours a day, I'm going to be big, I'm going to be buffed, I'm going to be beautiful. It's fabulous. Again, day 3, when you can't get out of the bed because of the first 2 days, say, well, I got to modify this program, and maybe I was, maybe the universe doesn't want me. That's what New Age people do, is they say, maybe the universe doesn't want me to have this. Maybe the universe is saying, right? Which is so much more enlightened than saying God doesn't want me to, right? So much more enlightened. But it's realizing that real lasting change comes in small, incremental ways of being. It comes in doing the little things every single day until those become habitual. I've watched in my own journey over this last year, I set an intention at the beginning of the year. In fact, I was going to bring my fat picture. Maybe next week I'll bring my fat picture, just for fun. That I set an intention at the beginning of the year towards better self-care, because I had realized that I wasn't taking care of myself in the process, and that if I wanted to do this for a long, ongoing period, then I needed to do some things differently. And so I set a plan of action about eating differently and doing that, and I realized I had to do some of those things every day. Every meal matters. We like to think sometimes that, this meal doesn't matter. Just speaking in case that may have happened for you this last week, right? No one was in excess this last week, right? Right? We give ourselves permission, right? So, but it was really about being different. Now, the good news is I lost a bunch of weight. I got in better shape than I've been. In fact, here's an image for you. Looking at myself naked in the mirror today. I know. We'll move beyond that. I don't want to leave you with that thought. It's a little much. But I realized, if I stand just right, I can actually see definition in places I haven't seen definition in a very long time. And I haven't lost that many inches. I've moved them around back to where they used to be, right? So, but the goal was not that. The goal was about self-care. The goal was about, the intention was about, how do I want to show up in the world this year? So I invite you, as you're looking at this, and we all tend to do it, and you're saying, what do I want to do this year? The larger question is really, who do I want to become? What qualities of spirit do I want to embrace and expand upon and experience more fully? And that again comes back to, what do I need to let go of? Because it is so true that we can't drag the past into the dynamic new future. That we have to be willing to release. We have to be willing to let go. I know just from practical experience that I couldn't create the new as long as I'm attached to the old. With Rick, it was like, but Rick, you don't realize how easy you've made my life for the last 5 years. I just know it's going to happen. I know it's going to be amazing. I know it's going to be beautiful. And now you're going to leave me? And so I talked to my therapist. Right? But I got to let him go. I got to love him and know that he's following his heart. And then I get to be open to what's seeking to be born. Because the new is never born in the same form as the old. Right? If it is, that's called a pattern. But it is this wonderful words that Ernest Holmes said to us. He said, because we fail to realize that principle is not bound by precedent, we limit our faith to that which has already been accomplished. Right? We fail to realize that principle is not bound by precedent. Thank God for that. There would be no evolution. Evolution is always something new coming forth, and it's a quantum thing that happens when life evolves. A new form of life happens that was never there before. This is the nature of the divine, and this is the nature of what's trying to take place in each one of us if we will but listen. That the new is trying to house itself in a new way. In the Bible, it talks to us about this idea. I love this passage about that you can't put new wine in old wineskins. Now, for those of you who've only recently taken up making wine, you're probably using bottles. But back in the day, when wine was made, it was made by using, how shall I put this delicately, the skin of organs. For example, a stomach might be a lovely container. Think sausage here, right? It would be a container that you would ferment the wine in. But guess what? If you used an old, dried up wineskin, what happened when you put the new in? It burst. So in this message, it's saying to us, you can't put this new thing into the old container. You must grow and expand the container. For us as spiritual beings, what we realize is we have to be willing to expand our capacity for greater good in our lives. Or we continue to contain the new in the old way of being. So, it's unfortunate, but some of you are blowing out some wineskins right now, and you're trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Right? It is about creating the space for the new container. So for us to move forward spiritually, emotionally, physically, yes, we must let go of what was to embrace what will be, but we also need to prepare the way. We need to prepare the place for that to happen. Dr. Holmes spoke to us about he said, I quote this often, but I think it's very instrumental. He said that we shouldn't think that this is get rich quick. We don't get what we want. We get what we can embody, which is to say we get who we become. When I become a more loving presence, when I become a greater vessel for love to be revealed, then the outer experiences I have greater love in my life. When I become that larger vessel for the divine, then greater good is in my life. It's not because the universe loves me and not others. It's because I am becoming a larger vessel for greater good. And I must let go of what was. I must embrace what will be. I must be willing to expand that. So I had a little meeting because a new person came into our life and said, I think I'd like to be the new music director. So we're in conversation, at least on an interim basis. The wonderful, talented Copo Magic is going to take on this new role. At least on an interim basis. We'll play it out. Some of you don't know who that is. Good for you. You get to have a new experience. Right? Now, it's not better or worse than. It's just that the universe is not staying stagnant. Because the void has been opened, a new possibility can come forward. This is why I could stand in peace. I could honor my loss as well as experience joy and know a greater good's coming forth because I've done this. I have said, you don't make it 24 years in ministry unless you get really good at letting go and embracing new. The problem with you people is you never stay the same. Oh no, you want to have dynamic, active lives. Rich wants to go to Vermont and become a doctor of whatever. You want to follow your dream. You want to live off the land. What? I kind of get why some churches are really about, no, you will. These are the rules. You will stay here. We will control you. I get it. It doesn't work very well with this crowd, but I get it. Right? So the fullness of life is always about the new beginning. And every moment of our life is a new beginning. And so we can give birth to the same old pattern that we've always given, or we can be willing to move into a new state of being to experience a new way of having and experiencing. So whatever it is you're looking at for your next step of your life, again, we all do this at the beginning of the year, I would really invite you to look more deeply at not what it is you want to do this year, but really to ask the question, who do I want to become? How do I want to expand upon the gifts that the divine has given me? How do I want to bring forth greater love, greater joy, greater abundance, greater good into the world? And if so, what must I release? And then what must I embrace to become that person? Rev Marty on Wednesday night will have a lovely and wonderful ceremony, which is so good, a burning bowl ceremony. And just for those of you that grew up in the 60s and 70s like I did, it's an entirely different meaning. I remember the first time I heard about a burning bowl ceremony, I was like, I haven't done that in a while, that sounds like fun. But not that. This is spiritual. But it's about a releasing, oh, never mind, I know, had you right there. I know. But it got the fat me out of your mind, so that's all good, right? New image. But in this ceremony, this releasing and embracing ceremony, it's a wonderful chance to symbolically come together and to look at what needs to be released, what needs to be embraced, to have some pyrotechnics that go with it to solidify that. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience. Wherever you are on this journey, just know that you are loved, that you are a divine expression of the one life, and that the one life is seeking its highest self-expression through you. Listen to what's being called from your heart. Allow Rick and Shemaine to be an example for what it looks like to walk through that change with grace and with dignity and with love. We give thanks for what has been, and we welcome what shall be. Let us pray. As we simply take this moment to embrace this one life, this one power, this one infinite being that we call God, that we call life itself, that we call 10,000 names. But whatever we call it, we know that it is greater than that. We sense, we feel, we know. This one divine intelligence is everywhere present and always available. That unity is the very nature of this being. That everything is connected with everything else. So we cannot be separate from the divine. Rather, we know that the divine is expressing through us, as us, having an experience of itself through us. And so we open our hearts to greater love. We open our minds to divine wisdom. We open the very portal of our soul to recognize and know our oneness with this eternal life. And we recognize in that presence is the presence of love, of joy, of peace, of harmony, of all good. As we open ourselves to this greater reality, we make room for greater good to be expressed through us. We call forth the presence of wholeness, allowing that to be revealed and expressed as health and well-being and vitality. We open our hearts and our minds to experience greater joy, greater love. We realize that the portal to unconditional love is that which the Master taught, which is one of forgiveness. And so joyously and easily we forgive, we release, we let go, and we accept greater love, greater possibility. We allow that love to heal and transform our relationships. We bear witness to this ever-present reality that expresses itself as abundance in all things. We allow our lives to be a reflection of this divine abundance. The Master taught us that if we would seek first this spiritual dimension, then everything else takes care of itself. As we embrace that this is who we are, spiritual beings experiencing our humanity, we bring forth greater love, greater joy, greater peace, and we are blessed. Today we bless Rick and Shemaine as they take this next step on their spiritual journey. We know that the path is made easy, that the way is fulfilled. We bless this spiritual community as we move together as one into greater possibility and greater good. We extend a blessing to our brothers and sisters across the planet, to the planet itself. We're holding the high vision for a planet at peace and for a world that works for all. And as always, we bless all priests, rabbis, ministers, teachers of every faith. For we know there are many pathways to the divine. So we honor and celebrate them all. How good it is to know this truth. And so from the consciousness established in this moment, we know that life moves forward confidently, bringing forth greater good according to this divine law. In joy and gratitude, then, I know there's nothing more to do but to release the word, to know that it is so. As together we say, and so it is.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed.